Saturday, viewers. How's it going? How's everybody doing? Hey, Pookie. Hey, Board. Nice emotes you got there, Board. I like them.
Hi.
Hey, GlenCon. Hey, Raven. Welcome both. Welcome all. Howdy, lurkers. No need to shout out. Just enjoy from where you are. We're talking about Bioshock. Oh, hey, it's nice and small. Everyone's gonna be like, make it bigger. Make it bigger. Oh my god, it's too big now. Make it smaller. There you go. I have opinions about this one. Excellent. Excellent. I'm trying to remember the game.
It may have been a hot minute since you actually played Bioshock.
May have completed a couple games since that one. Actually played this one. Excellent. Excellent.
Yeah, we've also discovered that we are finally reaching the point where we have done enough things that we're starting to forget which things we've done.
I forgot that I've played Doom 2016 on stream. Forgot that was a thing.
It has been a long time.
Been a couple minutes. It was February that I played it. Yeah. That was a long time ago now. Can't run the stream in 720p and play Destiny 2. You need a better internet line.
Well, you know it's not your hardware. You've got a 3600 and 5700 XT. That's a good computer.
It'll do it if your internet could keep up. However, we'll try to make this one, I assume it's the hardware, we're going to try to make this one interesting enough. You're just on the menu. Well, Destiny could be doing all sorts of communication in the back anyway. I wouldn't put it past them. But I don't know.
Just really slamming your CPU, but like that seems kind of odd.
Yeah. Definitely tuning into this as opposed to playing Destiny. All right.
Well, that's a hell of an endorsement.
Yeah, I'll take it. Thank you very much for the compliment, sir. I will do my best to keep this entertaining. So we should actually start talking about not Destiny. We're not talking about Destiny. We should actually start talking about Bioshock. There's my error. I screwed something up. We can get started. Because I got the title right. There it is.
Yeah, we actually did.
Title's right.
Good.
Stream information's right. Got started on time. Wearing the right shirt. Started right. Yeah. Got the day right.
Yeah.
I usually get Saturdays.
I'm worried something else is going to go wrong, because something always has to go wrong.
Turning up sudo. That's what we need to do. I put him up to 200%. Should help.
How is it now? Am I loud now? Can I be heard?
Vaguely.
I'd say loud is a strong word.
Yeah.
You're audible.
Good enough.
Let's just push that up a bit. There we go. Try again. Both of you talk. Actually,
check 1 2. Check test. One check. One test.
Rage is great.
Testing 1 2. Hello.
Sudo's good enough. I wake up early, play D&D, hope I can function for the rest of the day.
Early morning D&D.
Oh, that brings up something interesting that I wanted to run past YouTube real quick before we start. Because one of the things that Gearbox talked about in their release that I was actually interested in is they're actually making their D&D version of... Can't remember what it's called now. B&B, not D&D.
The Bunkers and
Brawlers, yeah. Something like that. It was talked about in all the Borderlands games, or a couple of them anyway. I remember hearing about it in the game. But they're making a real version of it.
Oh, it was definitely
Bunkers and Badasses. That's it. Thank you.
Yeah. That was definitely in the Borderlands 2 D&D themed DLC.
Okay. They're making a real one. Do you guys want to play it on stream?
That
I'd be
seems like a complicated setup, but yeah.
Yeah,
I do.
I'll take care of the setup. Don't worry. I just need you guys to show up and play.
Oh, you mean like in person? 'Cause
No,
yeah,
no,
as soon as
online.
COVID's
Like
done,
Discord.
Play the shit out of that.
I'll get everything set up. I just need you guys to show up on Discord at your homes at the right time and play your characters. That's all you need to do.
I guess I can do that.
All right, let's do some bunkers and brawlers.
Badass.
Bunkers and badasses. I like brawlers now. Brawlers is in the head already. That's my name for it. That's what it'll be called from this point forward. Thank you very much.
The game has officially been renamed. It hasn't even been released yet.
I'm going to write Gearbox a letter and let them know that the game is now called Bunkers and Brawlers, and they should update their cover art and all of their marketing stuff. Okay. Bioshock. World building. We always start at the bottom with the writing. I think the writing is, just as a whole, the writing is definitely Bioshock's strength.
I agree. I think the writing in Bioshock is incredibly strong. And specifically on the note of world building, I buy it. I think they did it. I think they built a really successful world. You can get involved in not necessarily the whole world, but the little slice of the world that you can see in the game, and it feels organic.
The world outside of the little crazy town, essentially, is what the place is that you're in, is a normal world. Normal, I think it was 50s.
Well, normal-ish.
Well,
Rapture is still
normal-ish, except for these crazy people who went under the water and built this town to live different than everyone else and developed strange plasmid technology and
I mean, there's no way that didn't leave Rapture. Like it left Rapture at some point.
Probably.
So normal-ish. I like normal-ish. Normal-ish,
because the nice thing about normal-ish is it gives you something to fall back on as a writer. You don't need to describe every nitty-gritty detail. You can say it's the 50s and here are the differences. And still get a large image and all of the cultural relevant stuff come with it for that era. You can focus on your differences and create a very vivid, very believable world.
Yeah, and I think they did a great job of it. I was definitely sucked in by the whole concept of Rapture when I was playing the game.
Yes. That sum it up?
Yes.
Okay.
What's the link for the Google Doc share?
No, thank you. There's the mistake. I got that.
Somebody's got to do something.
We got it.
Anyone
Out of the way.
copy link done. Right. We do our best to not have spoilers for this because I am planning to make these more available to everybody and share them in some way so that people can come back, look at game reviews, look up games we've talked about, recommended. Yeah, still a little quiet. I've been doing my best to get those levels up for him. I think he just needs to stick the mic up his face. You gotta have it right in the mouth.
I need to restart my computer. It's basically that. I forgot to do that today. And
it honestly feels like something is auto-adjusting your microphone because every time you turn it up, it then goes back to nearly silent.
Yeah, there's something funky going on. I've had my interface die twice today, so I figured it's just like some Windows driver issue, and it's been causing me problems.
Rough.
Yeah. There's not much because it's been fine the last couple of days. And then today,
That's
I look
better.
at my levels, and I'm like,
Right there.
it's
That's
just kind
better.
of. I didn't like not too much changes. It just kind of fluctuates depending on like sometimes what window I have open, and it gets weird. Audio in Windows gets really fun.
Yeah, audio in Windows is just super great.
That's totally why I was thrilled and excited to rebuild my computer. I couldn't wait to do the audio again. Pseudo just needs to get really angry about something and yell. Then we'd hear Pseudo normally. Yeah. So let's talk about monetization in AAA games again. That'll get Pseudo steaming.
Oh yeah, there we go.
Then we'll
all be shouting.
We will all be yelling at that point, though, so you won't be able to hear anybody.
The characters.
I'm gonna say good because
yeah, I gotta go with good as well.
Heavily relied on them to kind of deliver the world that you're in, and just like spoilers, all the spoilers and stuff. It's just like everyone you meet, especially near the end of the game, a lot of stuff that kind of unfolds. Everything is very convincing. You don't kind of second guess anything, or nothing pulls you out of it. You believe the authenticity of these characters, being like, this is what they're like. This is what's happening. I'm not reading someone's written dialogue, or you can't notice the voice actors. You're just fully pulled in by what's going on.
And there's a couple of particularly well written characters that do go through significant change throughout the story. Like it is very, very well handled.
A key to good writing is evolution of a character. The characters were a little extreme to me, but that fit the setting. Everyone went a bit extreme down there. Yeah. Well, it's
just a touch.
they're also using extreme as hyperbole, right? That's the point of most of the extreme there.
Yeah, it was definitely intentional. It was definitely what they were going for, and I think they did it well. They didn't having it at those extreme levels can actually be very difficult. It may seem like something that's easy, just ramp everything up and add a little juice to everything, but it's very easy to cross that very thin line of extreme hyperbole writing before you just get to just campiness and just kind of silliness.
Yep.
A lot of the stuff's extreme, and there's a little bit of camp and a little bit of silliness mixed in there, but overall it's still a serious tone that's there.
Yeah, and if they would have lost the serious tone, they would have lost a lot of the meaning in their writing. The serious tone is important because there is a lot of very serious message going on within it.
Yeah, it's a very interesting message that they're trying to get across, and trying to be spoiler free makes it hard to talk about.
Yep.
But
I'm just going to go ahead and throw a good in the storyline as we're talking about this.
Yeah, for sure. I think they nailed it. Honestly, I think they really did. I think they got the point across in a way that is not necessarily ham-fisted, but strong. Like it is a strong representation of their point. While if you're just there to play a video game, there's also a pretty competent video game packed on.
Yep, and you can totally ignore the story if you want and run around and still make it through it without fully understanding the message. But there is a good message in there. There is moral. The game story is written with moral and message. Gets it across in a creative way. Not required to understand or even fully pay attention to enjoy the game. And no, we did not talk about that. Hey, Slide on Branches with the raid. Welcome, Raiders. Welcome. Slide. What are you guys up to?
Welcome to the game review show.
Game review show, game diagnostic, pick apart mechanic, and hello. and as they're jumping in
endlessly, yes, that is the thing that we do.
And yes, and absolutely sidetrack. There's our pimp. Ford was asking if we talked about the audio diaries for world building. So we should touch on it briefly since he wants to bring it up. It's great to catch you. Oh, it's great to be caught. Thanks for not letting me fall. Appreciate that.
You got us, bro.
The audio diaries, not a unique mechanic, not a original mechanic, done in almost every game. The beginning of time with a story. But well done. The ones that had voice acting, very good. We'll talk about that more when we get up to the audio. But, it was well written through and through, every single one of them. So bring that up, worth tracking down.
I'd also like to touch on the implementation of audio diaries, because there were a lot of, or audio logs, I guess. There used to be a lot of games that would not let you move and interact with the video game while the audio log was playing. And this was, I believe, fairly early on in the practice of letting you listen to the story while you're doing other things. It didn't stop you from playing the video game, which is something that's very, very good.
Yes.
Never stop your player from playing your game. You want them to play your game. And I think that it was, if I recall correctly, it was one of the earlier ones, and it was a trend that I was very happy to see at the time. Also, It's completely optional. If you don't care, you don't have to do it.
Yep. We love optional story. It's a wonderful thing, because not everybody wants story crammed down their throat. Not every game needs to cram it down your throat. You can have a good story and still allow players to play and ignore it and enjoy it. Like Dark Souls.
Dark Souls.
It feels nice and kind of special just to go through and try to find out what's been going on around, especially if it's kind of like you get that kind of innate curiosity when you're in a new area, such as Rapture. This is what the hell is going on here? And it's nice to find those little audio clips to kind of give you a little bit piece by piece of an idea of what's actually been going on.
It's a beautiful example, and a little bit further proof that you do not need to cram the story down the throat for the player to want to find it. If you make an interesting enough world, the players will seek that story out. They will want to know it. Just put that little bit of work into it, and they'll be there.
I really hate it when you go to play a game and you get a 15-minute to a 20-minute. Oh, it looks like.
Bye, Rage.
You cut out. By webcam.
15 to 20-minute just forced tutorial for controls, but also just forced world building, where they kind of just hand fist being this is everything going on, condensed so you can get into the actions. You don't have to just spoon feed me the entire sandwich at the start. You can cut it up and give me piece by piece. It feels kind of, I don't know. It's a personal preference, of course. Maybe some people like that when just get on with it, let me know, and get me to the action. But it's always kind of annoying when it's a forced thing right at the start of just 20 minutes of just okay. And especially when you go back for replayability and everything already, then you're really just okay, I know, we're good. Yep, just let me do what I want to do now.
Yeah, allowing to skip videos is basically what we're talking about at that point. And yes, I'm with you. Let us skip it. If we've already seen it, let us skip it. You don't know if we've already seen it, so just let us skip it. Just let us skip the video.
There's also something to be said for just understanding user experience in such a way that that you want, the user bought your video game. They want to play a video game. Unless it's a Hideo Kojima game and then they want to watch a movie. But the end result is why are you stopping them from playing your video game? While they are sitting through this long tutorial in a very inorganic way of learning how to play your video game, while they're getting all the story dumped in their lap that they, at this point, they honestly don't care. Straight up, they don't. You haven't given them any reason to be invested in any of these things. Why are you wasting their time?
I don't mind the short, here's a history of the world videos at the beginning. Those can be on point. Let us skip them but like Dark Souls. But even before that, the first one that comes to my mind when I think back to starting a game and a video pops up and gives me a little rundown on the history of the world, there I was just I need to know more, was Fallout.
Yeah, for sure. Fallout did a great job of that. But again, that's a little 2-minute segment, not 10 plus minutes of people forcing you to do a thing.
Yeah. The comparison I like is Fallout 3 to Fallout New Vegas. Fallout 3's intro is, you're kind of just stuck doing it. I can't remember if you can skip it or not. That was something you could originally do if they added that in later. It's cool and interesting the first time you go through it, but it's one of those things you go through it again, you're kind of okay, there's not too much difference you can do. Whereas with New Vegas, the entire kind of intro tutorial town, the moment you kind of leave docks, you can just be like, see ya. Like, I'm gonna run this way. It makes it clear what is the tutorial mission right out of the gate and asks you, are you sure you want to do this? And you can just be like, no. And you don't lose anything for it. You can kind of just do what you want. I find like that's, they build it up, a bit of a cutscene at first, a bit of a backdrop on what's going on. Doc explains what's going on, and it takes less than 10 minutes for the whole thing, and you get right into whatever you want to do.
Yep. Dark Souls, the entire video at the beginning is skippable. All the video really tells you is a history of what happened before. Nothing about now. Nothing about the coming. Just before, to give you a little bit of context. You don't need any of that context, and then you're in the game. But that depth is amazing, and it is there, and you can find it all out in the game if you work hard enough.
And just to sidetrack just a little bit further before we read
because we're not sidetracked
comments,
enough.
That's one of the things that I love about how From Software tells stories. They give you just enough to get you interested, and then they're like, okay, you got to work for the rest. You got to earn it. You got to go figure out what the story we're telling is. And I really love that approach.
Again, proof that if you have an interesting enough story, you don't need to cram it down our throats. We will go find it. It will happen. We will hunt for it if you made a good enough game. Make a good game. Let us play it. Performance on Bioshock.
Glenn Cohn just left a couple messages here that I wanted to address.
Yeah.
I feel like there are people who do not mind the introductory information dump, but not everybody. So please allow different people to play your game different.
Yep.
And I think that is 100% correct. Like you can do an info dump in the middle, or in the beginning, as long as you then give people the option to not care, because not everybody is going to care. And for those of the player base who do care, absolutely, that's a great thing. Let them take their lore dump and get really invested in the details. But for those of us that just want to play the video game, let us play the video game.
Oh, Rubido.
Yay! Rubido and Raiders, welcome as well. Guess what? We were sidetracked a little bit. I'm sure you've never seen that happen before, but it happened. So let's talk about Bioshock a little bit.
Nobody expects the sidetrack.
No. Everyone's like, wow, they're not talking on topic? What's this? Bioshock performance, I've got too powerful of a computer to make a sound judgment call. It ran well on console.
Well, not only were you playing on a very, very powerful computer, but you were also playing the remaster. Yeah. I played it on release. It was hard to run. It was hard to run at the time.
So release issues, but
not so much issues as lack of optimization. Like, I didn't have any game-ending crashes or anything like that.
I still call that an issue. Lack of optimization is an issue in my mind. Played the original on my Xbox, and I think it went okay. Good on 360. Okay. Yeah. I figured the console ones were probably okay. Was it 30 frame or 60 frame, do you know?
Oh, 30. Guaranteed 30. There's no way I was running at 60 FPS on a console.
I guess that in those days it would be 30.
Was in the name.
Yeah, the only 60 was in the name. Well said.
Yeah, I played on the original on Xbox when it came out, and for the timing and like everything else, it ran at least well from what I remember. It looked really, really good compared to a lot of other stuff that was up at the time, and that's mostly due to a lot of the kind of tricks they got to get away with everything kind of being dark and close quarter hallways and stuff like that. But
when did Bioshock come out?
It is old. Like, I'm gonna make myself feel old here.
So I'm gonna call it good.
2007. What was the GPUs that were out in 2007?
Whatever 430 is.
Oh fuck! Was that the 400 series? God, that was a terrible.
430 was 2010.
That was before the 400 series.
9800?
No, it was the 8 series. Apparently.
Yeah, before they. Yeah, oh my god. 8600. I think I still have an 8600.
So I would have been playing this on an 8600. I couldn't afford the 8800 at the time. but I remember it being like it ran okay.
Well, it ran okay on a
Not great.
60 series card, which is not the greatest card, and it still ran okay.
Well, keep in mind there was only one step above it at the time.
The 70?
No, there was no 70. It was only 60 and then 80.
Oh, okay. It's been a minute. I haven't looked at those cards.
It did have optimization problems. The 8600 was actually a legitimately strong GPU. Like it for the time it was strong. It wasn't terrible. It wasn't amazing, but it was strong. I would say that there was a lack of optimization. They clearly spent all their time optimizing for consoles. But
yeah. The PC one's a PC port, isn't it? The console port?
The remaster is a console port. The original, I believe, was actually a separate clip for PC.
Whoa. So you're saying they made a PC version, and then when they remastered it, they remastered the console version?
Yes.
That hurt my head.
Yeah, there's that's actually happening with a bunch of games right now.
Ow!
Most of the remakes and remasters that are coming out these days are actually the console version that's then ported over to PC.
I mean, there must be a valid engineering reason. I don't know what it is, cheaper. But there must be.
It's cheaper to get the console version running on a new console and then just port that to PC and add more fidelity options. Money.
Oh, terrible. Terrible. Animation. I remember the animation was... Okay. I really liked the reload animations. The reload stuff was good. Time and pace was good. Like, some of the reloads were a little slow, but it was the pace of the game. The game's not a super fast-paced game.
Aha! I was right. It was a native direct API game. Originally released on Windows and Xbox 360.
Ah. PlayStation 3 port by Irrational. Okay, so they... Interesting. The hacking mini game. Yeah, it had Pipe Dream. You're right. Pipe Dream was definitely the best part of the game.
Pipe Dream is dope. That game's so fun.
I definitely did not hack every single thing in the game just to play Pipe Dream over and over again.
Definitely not.
That's not a thing that happened at all.
But for a hacking minigame, it was really good, especially for what else was out there at the time. It's just, at least it was fun. I mean, it's something you go out of your way to play, but it wasn't like the worst thing.
Yeah,
no, I really liked it. I loved that they actually had a mini game for doing it, rather than just like some little canned animation or a skill check, like where you're just pressing E at the right time or whatever.
it was one of the really early games to have an actual like mini game to complete in order to complete the hack. I don't remember a lot before.
System Shock, I believe, had a mini game.
Yeah, System Shock's
I think so.
arguably the pioneer of it. I mean, System Shock is the pioneer of FPS story. So
many things.
And also in the same series as Bioshock, as evident by the name. Yeah. Spiritual successor. Precursor. Yes, all of these terms are correct. I never actually played the System Shock series. Every time I watch someone play it, I'm like, wow, I'm glad I didn't play these.
Supposedly, they're doing a remake, and I want to play the remake.
Oh yeah,
I never played the originals.
Thrilled for
but
a remake.
I want to play the remake.
The originals are just so kludgy. So kludgy. I watched CarTube play them recently, and whew, that's a lot of saving and loading.
And a lot of UI. Like, oh my god, there's so much UI in that game.
Yes. So where do we stand on animation then? How about you guys? I'm kind of on the fence. I'm not sure. I'm thinking okay, but it might be good. I remember there was some decent... some of the plasmids had some good animations. You know what? Just for the sheer number of plasmids that there are, and all of them having their own animations, that's pretty damn good in its era. Pretty damn good even for today.
I was gonna say that because there's a lot of abilities you get, and they're very well polished. Like none of them are silly or anything. The way they interact with, well, I can't remember the enemies' names. The splicers, I believe.
Slicer.
And then even just the animations for the big daddies. Like I think they like that is some. They're fascinating to watch. You know, like that. If that wasn't done well, it would stand out very, very much. If this
That's
thing,
true.
They really kind of sell that, big, clunky, it doesn't really feel like it's clumsy in any way, but you could tell that it's like this, all right, it's like a sleeping bear thing, and as soon as you wake it up, all of a sudden this thing is just crazy coming at you, and it sells it, right? Like you really need the animation to be able to sell those, distinct states.
I'm with you. And sorry, the first time you shoot one of them that's lumbering around, it turns at you and runs. You're like, they shouldn't move this fast.
It's like a bear. You don't expect it to move that fast, and then it does. But I was gonna say I completely agree with Pseudo on this one. I think it is a good. I think particularly the character animations are standout. Like they are pretty incredible, especially considering when it came.
Yeah, very, very good. I'm completely converted. How do we want to write it up,
though? Animations are fluid and believable, show high levels of polish. Character animations are standout.
Cheers, Raven. There's a lot of green on this chart, so that's not even a discussion.
Yeah. Fantastic, unique, consistent.
The game is literally dripping with style.
And that's not an improper use of literal. There's a lot of dripping in it.
That's why I used literally. It was a juicy pun.
It's nice that it's consistent throughout the whole, like even when like new things are introduced later on, it's still everything fits that same theme in style. Like it's pretty unique. But there's a lot of games that'll have a unique style, but they won't stick with them, and then you get kind of it gets kind of a weird experience halfway. But this game is just like they nailed it with it. It is just fantastic all the way through. They just keep piling it on, adding to it, growing it, and it's amazing. It's a fantastic experience.
Plus, I just love Art Deco. Like Art Deco is super cool.
Yeah.
Super wasteful, but it was pretty cool. It's just stylish to be stylish. Completely purposeless. Absolutely no reason for it, but let's do it because it looks cool.
That's what makes it art. So on to some more art then. Musical scoring.
I don't remember the music in the game.
Yep. I would say okay.
Art is something that someone thinks is art. That's accurate. That's sound effects. Get to you. You stay okay for now. Music was good. State your case. We'll move on to voice acting.
Do you mean it's like good, or do you mean it's like fine? Because I totally agree with that. It was fine. It's just not particularly impactful.
It doesn't stand out to me. I don't remember it any points in the game where I'm like, the music is setting everything perfectly right now. helped to set the mood, fit the style appropriately, and definitely helped to immerse me in it. So it's fine.
Yeah, usually our bar for good is when you can actually distinguish individual tracks outside of the game itself. Like examples of games with like fantastic good music, the classic like Legend of Zelda games all have very like Song of Storms, all that stuff is still even remixed to today. Like
Sonic.
It's a lot of stuff that fits the game super well and the theming, but also just on its own, those tracks and those scores, can stand out without the game and could be listened to just because they're solid.
Final Fantasy.
Yeah, and it's right there that when you combine those two, when you have just an amazing track on its own, plus putting it in a proper place and setting inside of the game, makes that super kind of amazing combination for a good.
Well, you can listen to a lot of people can listen to a soundtrack outside and enjoy it without it being good, just like...
Yeah, our bar might be a bit high on musical scores.
We are comparing it to some amazing soundtrack.
Yeah,
I'd put Risk of Rain 2 at good.
Yes, Risk of Rain 2 has a fucking fantastic soundtrack. Halo's great. Sonic, obviously. The
Super
Final
Mario
Fantasy series. Basically, just pick a Final Fantasy. It's got great music.
This one fit it. Risk of Rain is lit. You're not incorrect, Cuddles. Welcome. Voice acting, what I remember was like it never once had me doubting that was the character. It was pretty good voice acting. There was inflection and tone and timing. And
a good amount of emotion, too. Like,
yep.
A lot of the times the characters weren't talking about something that was happening right now, but you would still feel the character's feeling through the voice acting. And I think that is a sign of very good voice acting.
Yeah, this game heavily relied on its voice acting as well as its writing. I'll avoid spoilers and such, but there's a lot of conflict between the antagonist and just other characters in the game, and it wouldn't have been sold as much if the voice acting was even just that good. Like, they really needed to knock it out of the park with that to be able to sell kind of what was going on and immerse you in there and kind of, make it believable. Like, it wasn't just like an afterthought. This was like one of their main intentions of the game. Was like, all right, we're going to sell this story, we're going to sell this world, and we're going to sell this, this conflict and this timeline of events, as well as the resolve of what happens.
Yeah.
I have to address the question of Mario towards music with...
Everybody knows that song. Mario's got great music.
It's also playing in almost everyone's head now. Would you kindly avoid spoilers to this game? We have, actually. We've managed to go through it all without any spoilers and do a good in-depth review so far.
I can't address it without it being a spoiler, so I'm not going to say anything.
This is my point. We've managed to do it so far.
Sound effects. I would say leave it at the okay.
I remember liking the sounds of the guns and the plasmids and I guess the enemies shouting at you as voice acting, but yeah, the water, the Big Daddies, the mechanical sounds of the Big Daddies moving and steam, and the alarms were good. They were using the sound effects to express state changes in the game, I guess state changes. That's really everything, but they were using them all to express state changes.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that it is a very good technical implementation of sound effects, but I found most of the firearms to sound a little anemic. The shotgun was really good. Shotgun sounded amazing. But the rest of them, like most of the player interaction sound effects to me were kind of like, it's okay.
What do you mean player interactions, like grabbing things and moving things and
Grabbing things, moving things, shooting things.
and the damn vending machines?
It's a circus of value.
I love that. just like
Okay,
I love
if I can quote sound effects from the game, it's good.
just like it's not the best choice, it's Spacer's choice. It's up there with that.
Yeah, you have accidentally typed over the good in voice acting.
That's fine.
Also, just like the smaller kind of nuanced like sound effects for like when you get ammo and just money and stuff like that. I thought they were stylized. They still fit the theme and the style, and I enjoyed it. Nothing really was jarring or took me out of it. Everything was well polished. It was just words are hard to say, but it was really good. I enjoyed it a whole lot, and I really enjoyed, especially those vending machines. It has every little kind of bit. They put a lot of effort into this. You can tell they were very careful and they were very, direct with what they wanted.
The Doom X32 OS.
Sucks but funny. I've probably even played Doom on the X32 or 32X. Now I'm confused. There's something I'm not thinking of, or are you talking about the Genesis 32X Doom?
Because the OG Doom soundtrack was actually, but I don't know how it was on the Genesis. Although the Genesis had a good sound chip, I don't know why it would be bad.
Yeah, that's why they did Walker on the Genesis. It's 'cause of the sound chip. But who knows how it ends up compressed down to that sound chip. Doom Mega Drive 32X. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. I never played that instance of Doom.
I probably did play it, but I was really young because it was a new thing at the time. Bioshock accessibility. Now here's where the problem where it's been a long time since I played it. 4 to okay.
Yeah. I would agree with GlenCon on this one. I don't remember there being on the initial release, there wasn't anything other than control rebinding and subtitles.
The
kind of both.
Yeah.
Kind of both the original and the remaster.
Let's add remaster to the name because that's actually the one we played.
I believe the remaster had some accessibility features.
Did it have control inversion?
I didn't play it with a controller.
I think so. Even if you did play it with a controller, you still wouldn't know if it had controller inversion because you wouldn't have inverted your controller. I'm a strange person. It's still installed. Load it up for a minute. I don't think it is. I moved a bunch of stuff and reinstalled Windows. I'm going to go with, just off the top of my head, probably bad. Maybe okay. But just go no colorblind. No CC. Only subs. Control. Head control rebinding. Individual audio sliders. Oh
I
god,
don't
it
know if
sounds
it
like
had
farting. Why does it
controller.
sound like farting?
I don't know if it had controller rebinding though. Let's find out. Bioshock remaster controller rebinding.
While you look into that, we should start talking about the mechanics, because it's been quite a while already, and we're only just getting to them now. Apparently we had a lot to say about Bioshock. There's a lot to say about the mechanics, because it was a fairly deep mechanical game as well.
Very, very good game.
Anybody opposed to a good on the mechanics due to the depth of build system?
Nope.
I think it's good. There's a lot of mechanics in this game too. Some that it could have been missed.
It did not have controller remapping.
That's a UI thing, not a mechanic thing.
I was talking about for accessibility before, because we were looking into it at the time.
Oh, accessibility is specifically for like, colorblind, control remapping for handicap, audio sliders for audio hearing issues, stuff like that. That type of accessibility.
What? Yeah, that's what I was talking about. I was saying that it did not have controller remapping, only PC keyboard and mouse remapping.
Oh. So had keyboard rebinding only. There you go. Thank you.
Going on, I think the plasmids were clunky to switch falls under more of the control of the game, and I have some issues with the control of the game as well. But I think mechanic-wise, which is like the things that you interact with in the game, the things that you can actually do, I think they were pretty solid. There was a lot in there, like all the different plasmids you have, even like the hacking mini game. Like they put a lot of effort into the hacking mini game. You don't really, a lot of time it's like an afterthought. It's got that kind of Bethesda touch. Kind of like, doesn't have the Bethesda touch of just we need a little mini game here. Throw something together this weekend and shove it in, and that's good enough. Something Oblivion lockpicking. It's like you could tell they put the effort in. Like they knew that people were going to spend a significant amount of time in it. So like, hey, let's make it good, along with everything else that you do. It's like they really kind of cared about the mechanics they're putting in and flushed them out. And there's a lot in there, but they weren't just kind of shoving them in, hoping for the best. And there's a bunch of unpolished ones. They really were clear with what they wanted in there.
Yeah, I would say like the touch points of the game, like the places where you actually interact with it, were all very, very well polished.
Uh-oh.
You mean the devil's touch? Yes. Shh. We can't let them know we're on to them.
Or my internet might be dying.
No, you're okay here.
Uh-oh.
Alright, this stream stopped for me and my audio cut out from Discord, but we'll see. Hopefully.
You haven't cut out for us at all. I don't know what's going on for you, but keep talking and we'll let you know if you cut out.
Yeah,
sounds good.
there was a little blip there for me as well. I believe it may be like a cloud flare thing or something.
It's very possible.
Bethesda's onto him.
They're plugging internet. Sorry.
He likes your games, we promise, Bethesda. He's of all of us, he's the one who plays them the most.
I still buy them, except for 76, but I buy the other ones. I buy the ones that are still games.
The hacking minigame was great and fit the perfectly.
Honestly, like
combat was good. Headshots felt right. Yeah. I mean, even if it kept moving, like moving reduced odds of being hit. Nothing frustrates me more than when I like start running and dodging and in games and the computer's just like pop, 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 and it doesn't matter if I'm moving or standing still. They're just gonna hit me with every shot anyway. Like, why am I even moving? I'm just gonna stop and shoot you. You gotta reward movement.
Yeah.
That's key. That's core. I understand this now. You will be missed, Pseudo. You will be. I'll fight for you.
To Rubido's comment there, like I really like the Fallout series, the originals, and I just still liked even the new ones because I just like having more content. But then like when they announced 76, I was pretty stoked at first because I have a bunch of friends that were playing Fallout at the time. Like, hey, it'd be nice to even just have like a co-op, let alone like an actual full multiplayer. And then they said, yeah, we're using the same engine to make it, and then all these alarms just went off in my head like, oh no. You're gonna take a single player engine and just shove some MMO into it. I'm like, oh no. But the premise is still like, it's not a terrible idea. Like when we rip on 76, it's not so much because it's like a bad idea or bad. It's just the execution was just god awful. But they've been working on it surprisingly, and it's still apparently in somewhat of a playable state and getting better reviews. But I think there's still like, it's not. It's still a market for people to play it. Like I've been tempted a few times, and then I look at the microtransactions, and I'm like,
oh yeah, it's Bethesda.
That's pretty bad. But I still think like if you have a group of friends who like that kind of stuff, and you can kind of play in a private server together, I still think but
you just said it's fun with friends. That's not
a defense of the game. That's a defense of your friend.
I'm not defending the game. I'm just saying like they want to play it. I'm not just going to say you can't play a game because it's it's shit.
We're not saying you can't. We're not saying you can't. We're just saying you shouldn't.
We literally did say that. We said no, you don't. I know it's joking, but still,
I said that. You didn't say that. I said that.
Yeah. But I said like just in general, like there's still redeemable qualities to them. It's still overall just what are you doing? Please stop it. But they didn't have so much microtransactions, and like I could still see it. And there are a lot of games that you could play with friends, and it'd still be god awful terrible. I could think of a few that even with friends it would not be salvageable. But at least you can kind of still get that experience. It's not the same as being able just to play like Fallout 4 or like Fallout New Vegas multiplayer. But I mean, at least it's kind of something around the realms. Hopefully they fixed all those bugs that just allow you to actually play the game.
See, this is where I disagree.
Bioshock.
Just 1 second. It's not a game. It's a platform in which to sell you other things.
Hold on. I might have a way to make you happy here. What if next week we talk about Bethesda? What's good and what's bad?
just 2 hours talking.
2 hours talking about Bethesda, the good and the bad.
Okay, I legitimately do have some good to say about Bethesda. Surprising many people.
Okay. So let's stay on Bioshock for now, because we're almost at an hour.
Okay.
Not enough time, I know, but we only have 2 hours together. But next week will be Bethesda, the good and the bad. Okay?
Okay.
Bioshock.
Yep.
Remaster bugs. There was a save file bug in the remaster that can completely destroy your progress. Fortunately, we didn't hit it.
I hate those so much. Those have ruined games for me. I know like a lot of people already didn't like it, I guess, but that ruined. I hate to bring up Bethesda of it. That happened to me in Skyrim. And it ruined Skyrim for me. Like I typically like those games. Like I enjoyed the hell out of Oblivion. It's one of my favorite games.
Okay.
But like the save file bugs are like, I hate those things. Like that is terrible. That should never happen. Like my god. It also happened to be in Doom. That really sucked. I'm glad I had a backup, but I also got a save file corruption in Doom, which was kind of annoying. But at least it was like something I could fix. But it's a terrible feeling when it happens. You're like, well, and at least Doom isn't so much like you're making a bunch of choices or anything. It's still fairly kind of linear, but it's always a shitty experience when you get so excited to see what's next. And you're like, the 4 hours you did, you gotta do them again now. I'm like, oh, damn it. This sucks.
RNG.
I don't remember any bad RNG at all in the game.
I think it's used for price generation.
Yeah, I think it's like item availability, like what's available in the shops.
Yeah, that's what it was.
I'm trying to remember if any of the plasmids rely on it.
Random drops as well, like what you find to a degree. But it's randomized off of a list. It's not randomized off of everything. It's randomized off of a loot list for the area, and there's enough containers and a small enough loot list for each area that you'll get everything all the time. They may even be counting what spawned and raising the odds of stuff that hasn't to ensure that you're getting everything.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of when I said plasmids RNG, I'm thinking of like the actual.
The plasmids are not RNG. Yeah.
If there was anything that, if there was any sort of effect that, would rely a bit on it, not so much getting them or when to get them, but I was trying to think of any of them. I don't think any of them were. They're all fairly straightforward.
But then like...
You just use them.
What about the vending machines where you'd get the upgrades for the plasmids and everything? Is that all set as well?
I believe that's set. I believe that's linear. You run into
Interesting. That's even better then. Great for the speedrunners. That's all set. Okay. Good to know. So it's really just the loot for the area is random off of list. Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
And it was great. That is an appropriate use of RNG.
I get little random game ideas in my head. Sometimes I go through this, and I thought about what if we took a game, or if I took one of my games and took every single configurable variable I have for like thresholds and values I have set, and just swap them to RNG. You just get something completely like an entire physics engine.
That would be fucking horrible.
I know, right? It'd be like the worst thing in the world. It's like, what's gravity? I don't know. When you load the game up, you get a random gravity. It's like, oh boy. What's your player mass? I don't know. Some random just thing.
In this one, I'm so heavy that I can't move. I used to do that to people playing Quake 2. If you're on the Quake 2 server, you could pull up console and you could control server gravity. So while somebody's chasing me, I would turn a corner and then turn gravity to -1 so that they would float off the ground just a little bit, and then they'd turn to follow me, but they wouldn't be on the ground, so they would just keep their initial velocity and shoot past the corner. And if you got them over water or lava or something, then you could turn the gravity up to like 8,000 and they just drop into it and they wouldn't be able to jump high enough to get out of it, and just stick them in pits and stuff.
It sounds like a Skyrim mod gone wrong. A little bit.
Oh my. I might just do that. Maybe I'll see how much I can change. Anything that can change wall and memory. Oh, you get a random value. Health, random. Let's do it. Stats, random.
And like on every area load, just re-randomize everything in memory.
Every attack.
Now that's a randomizer.
Lobos has actually done that. There's a randomizer weapon mod that will just cycle you through all the weapons in the game, and you don't know what you're going to attack with.
Yeah. Control in Bioshock. You said you had some things to say about this, Mr. Pseudo.
Yeah. It's mostly just like I played it like. I'm not too sure how much the remaster changed, but originally, at least, when I played it, the guns, they controlled okay, but everything still kind of felt a bit heavy. I did have aiming, but even just aiming down sights didn't feel fantastic. It was kind of just you just hold the trigger and kind of just strafe and move around and go for that headshot and kind of get it. Not that it was terribly bad. It's just there's an area for improvement there where the guns kind of just. They didn't distinguish too much between themselves as well. I mean, you kind of just shoot.
Yeah, you just kind of click on stuff.
Some just shoot faster, some just shoot more, but it's it felt kind of all just the generic kind of tone to it. It was nothing really extensively far. It wasn't like you have games, other shooter games where every weapon has a distinct feel to it, a distinct taste. They don't kind of shooting the pistol fast versus shooting the Tommy gun. There wasn't a huge difference between that.
Yeah, but to Glenn Kahn's note of he had played Halo before, Halo still had a very diverse set of guns compared.
Yeah, and plasmid swapping was very awkward. Switching weapons was very awkward. Switching ammos was very awkward. And I am positive that this is the case, but I've never heard anybody else talk about it. There was, I know, mouse acceleration originally in the game, and you couldn't turn it off. And I'm positive that there was actually input delay. I'm positive that there was input delay.
I don't think there was on the remaster.
Maybe not. I haven't played the remaster.
I didn't notice any. It actually felt quite nice to perform headshots and stuff like that. I felt quite accurate with the pistol.
Yeah, it sometimes happens when there's ports, because sometimes they, will, depending on the engine, unfortunately put some layer in between, the direct input, and all of a sudden, it's waiting, or there's some sort of blocking call, and all of a sudden now your input is a couple milliseconds late, and it just feels super jarring. But at least on the original one I played, I didn't notice it too much, but it did feel kind of a bit heavy. It's hard to, I don't want to say clunky, because it wasn't clunky, but everything felt kind of, it wasn't super smooth, and it wasn't like a fast, intuitive experience, which I feel like it probably would have been, if a lot of the time everything's kind of happening pretty fast if you're wanting to swap between like plasmids and ammos and stuff like that.
Input delay and mouse smoothing. And you actually, on launch of the remaster, you could not turn off the mouse acceleration.
Oh my god. I feel like, because if it's... Ugh. It is... I hate that. I hate that so much. It feels so bad.
Gotten okay. Yeah, this is about how I expected it to look. Great writing, great video, looked great, written great, played okay.
Sounded good.
Yeah. Good video, good writing, good audio. It's okay gameplay. Does anybody really disagree with that? Is that an accurate summation of Bioshock?
I'd say so.
You look great, Lordy. I'll take that as a yes. And thank you very much, Cuddle. Thank you very much. We don't have a way to turn off pimps, do we?
I think I fixed Clear Pimp.
Clear Pimp? Clear Pimp's a thing now? I have aired my disagreement with your analysis of the music, but I recognize that I won't be able to persuade you.
Yeah, I think we just have a different bar for what makes a truly good soundtrack. Like your bar is different than ours, and just because we collectively have sort of agreed on a standard, we need to stick. And we collectively, I mean the panel.
We Happy Few got a good.
Yeah, but
That had really good music.
Did.
You let a scene play out extra long just because of the track that was playing.
Yep, I remember that. And then we found out that it was all written for the game.
Okay. On to some indie games.
Yep, we're gonna do Broforce next. Broforce! Loved that game.
This one is a very interesting game to me.
I love this game so much.
I would hate playing it, but I loved watching it.
You should play it. I don't know how you could hate playing it. It's so much fun. It's not usually my kind of game. It's not the kind of game I really seek out and want to play, but it was so good. You didn't watch the Broforce? Oh, you missed out. You should watch that VOD. It was a great game. We used some hilarious hijinks, like using the minigun, which is the Brominator, to launch ourselves backwards across the entire level. The recoil of the gun is so strong. Thank you for that one, Suda. That was great.
I'm very glad you played it. I'm very glad Pseudo submitted it, and I'm glad that I'm not the one who was playing it.
Clear pimp, clear pimps.
I don't know if it actually gives you any feedback.
Well, it did it right
Clear
after I
pimps
said it.
Clear pimps is actually like probably the worst implementation on RageBot.
I've beaten to reply to calls. I've beaten Broforce solo and I've beaten a co-op, and it's definitely a whole lot of fun co-op, but it's still very, very playable solo. Probably, I mean, playing things with friends makes most games a lot more enjoyable, even if they're not fun already. So it's kind of always a hard comparison for that. But it's like it is a very, like, the controls are a lot smoother than you expected. As soon as you start playing, you're like, oh, this is actually like, it's nice. It kind of feels like the Super Meat Boy platforming. You're like, wow, this is a nice platforming game. Everything is just like fine-tuned and polished.
And see, this is one of the reasons where I say I have very strange tastes in games, and I wouldn't actually like it because I don't like controls that are that smoothed out. I like a bit of clunk in my control.
Yeah, and that's fair. Like, everyone's got their has preferences and such. And it's definitely not a game for everyone, because there's a few things in it that, of course, are kind of jarring and some people wouldn't like. We'll get to them as we review through it. Things like you don't get to pick who you play as. A lot of people, like to have that choice, and it's very much just kind of, you just get this experience, and it's just a lot happening at once.
See, everything's fun with friends, and that's why we always say that friends aren't an excuse for a game being good. Because if you play a game with your friends and you don't have fun, you need better friends, not better games.
Anyway,
world building was okay. There was a world. You shot it up. Broforce!
There was a bit of stuff going on, at least nothing enough to make it a good, but I really appreciate a lot of the kind of how it still fit the overall theme of the game.
That's why it didn't get bad. There was a world. Yeah. They built a world. They put you in it. They did build a whole world. And I think there was a world. You shot it up. Broforce is the perfect review of that world.
I agree.
I only disagree with that about Dota 2. I really liked the friends I was playing with. They couldn't save Dota 2 for me. Okay, I can understand that. That's a super technical game. Super technical game.
I would say that about most MOBAs. Like, if you're playing at a lower level, everything is just chaos. And if you want to play at a higher level, you need to put an inordinate amount of time into it.
I like League at a moderately low level with friends. I don't like it by myself, but that one's fun with friends because it's easy enough to play.
I think it kind of goes with a lot of just competitive multiplayer games. The experience you have, even if your friends are great, depending on what the game is, no one. It's never really fun in the game if you kind of just lose all the time. So it's kind of hard with, like, when you play some of these competitive games and you're just kind of getting stomped. You're like, oh no, I made a sidetrack. No, it's fine. A lot of those games aren't even like sometimes I play League, and sometimes they're not always great to play with even like a lot of your good friends. Sometimes it's better to play with like in like a solo or getting matched up with a group of people, because depending on what's actually going to go down and happen versus a traditional just kind of co-op game where it's just presented to you that you're just going to roll over things and actually have a good time. We need an off-topic emote. We need some sort of just like, I don't even know what that looked like. A ramble one.
But I do think after the table, which will be our sub emote, where we spam it when somebody subs, we've got Spronked coming, and I think we do need an off the rails emote because that happens a lot.
I'm okay with this. Definitely. It's not hard to do. Animals are easily distracted by things.
Okay, characters.
But yeah, the table is not just for that. It's also when we raid people.
Yeah.
Able to them. Yeah.
And for characters, I'm gonna say okay. As much as I love all the characters you play as, it's honestly just kind of the just the initial fun of it. But overall, for like the entire game, there's not much more substance besides just their skin and their mechanic. Other than that, you don't. It never explains anything that's going on. You have no idea who any of these people really are, or why this is happening, or why they're
Okay, you've convinced me, but I do love the characters.
I know. It's hard.
Much.
It's hard. It's amazing. It's a big
I
part
really want to give this a good. There is not enough substance to them. Characters are perfect for the game.
The reasoning for it is the characters that they have here are more on the style than the actual world building character side.
I'm with you.
It's the style that is
their writing is not good. This is the character writing.
Yeah, they aren't really characters. They're kind of just like they're all kind of just a template that gets a style slapped on top of it and that you control for a bit. But I still love them. Like, my God, they're just fantastic.
And this is why we distinguish between something that is good and something that we like. Those are two different things. I don't think this is going to end up being a whole lot of green at the end of the day, but I loved it. I thought it was great.
Yeah. It is.
I mean, the satire is hard to capture within this writing. I think it would go under storyline.
Yeah.
At which point, I think the storyline does deserve a good.
I don't think it's good. I'd go with more. Originally, I was leaning towards bad, but
the satire is so well done, though.
I still think that the satire fits still mostly into the mechanic and into the style, because there isn't really a storyline. Like, there's no actual, like, it doesn't explain anything that's going on. You're just mindlessly shooting things, and then eventually it kind of just ends. I don't know if there's really even a story that you could read out. Like, if you were to sit down and just read out the story of what happened, you're kind of like, well, I landed on this place and then shot all this stuff that was going on, and then there's a couple bosses, but, I mean, you don't even really know who the demon is right away. You don't even know really the characters or anything. I don't know if there really was a story, and I do agree that the satire was fantastic, and they definitely reference every single action, but I don't know if I could give that's like as a good storyline compared to like other games that we've given okay storylines that actually have like an actual fully written experience.
I think the question is then, where does the satire fit? And I would say that while style is generally for video, like, does it go there?
There is a great deal to the writing, satire in the writing. That's why I wanted to give the characters a good originally. Because the use of the movie characters that they're using, slightly satirized to Broforce, which, is a huge play off of Team America, which brings lots of socio-political context into all of the writing of the characters. And then looking at exactly which characters they used throughout it. There's a thing of beauty that's created. Yeah. and it's so subtle.
It's hard to abstract it through, but I think even though we like it, I don't know if it's still, like, game-wise, if it would land on good first storyline. I'd be persuaded for characters.
Just from a writer viewpoint, it's well-written satire. It's really well done.
I agree. I think we need to decide where it goes.
Yeah. My argument for it would be, if someone asked me for an example of a game with a good storyline, I wouldn't recommend this. I wouldn't be like, this game, if you want a good story and you want to experience, a fantastic tale through it and have it presented to you, well, play this. It's kind of just, I would recommend on it's hard because, like, I know where we're getting at the start, but I don't know if storyline, I don't think it has a storyline. I do think it's a blend between style and characters, and I'd be more persuaded to bump characters up to good while referencing that, you know, they were heavily relied on that satire, and that's what made the characters good, even though maybe they didn't change much throughout the thing. There wasn't any kind of, you know, growth, but just the fact that, you know, they were, you know, referencing this other material, and the writing was also subtle, that I'd feel better spreading it between style and characters.
Yeah, that's why I put characters as good originally. You don't need... I talk about this often using stereotypes. Stereotypes are good for writing. Like, you want to use stereotypes in writing because it brings so much understanding about the character naturally into the viewers or the readers or the listeners' concept, because they know the stereotype. They may not consciously know the stereotype, but it's been written that way so many times since for so long ago that it brings an understanding with it, and it's something we can relate to.
Yeah, like my concern was just like, if someone doesn't know the characters, then the entire thing's lost. Like, yeah. The only reason why we can give it a good is because we actually know the references. Which, as long as like we iterate that and make that clear in the thing, then that's fine. But as long as it's noted that, you know, if someone doesn't know the characters, it's not really gonna, you know, be great characters. Then just kind of be like, okay, I'm this person. This is kind of strange. Sure, why not?
And a large portion of the satire is also delivered by the character that gives you your mission. Like, let's not forget about that.
Yeah, the main general boss guy.
How's that? The general is fan-freaking-tastic!
I feel better about giving characters a good than I do any other part of writing, so I think this is the appropriate place to count in our commentary on the use of satire in the game.
Yeah. I 100% agree with you. Because the characters are the satire. What characters they chose is the writing, basically. Minor nitpicking, capitalizing, general, so I know who you're talking about. Thank you. 100% correct. I may have inhaled. Storyline.
Okay at best.
Yeah, I don't...
There is a story that is used to deliver levels of action. Not today, Satan.
At least, yeah, there's at least it changed quite a bit, actually. Now that I'm more thinking about it, it's nice that it starts off with, like, you know, terrorist organization, then you move into, you know, aliens, and then you move into demons.
Yep.
So I think that there's still some effort there, and of course there is dialogue between. They have hilarious satire in the places you actually go, and how you're changing them from whatever they are now to just the freedom version of the place now, which is very appropriate for the what has been going on.
Thank you, Board.
So, yeah, I'm fine with that. Okay.
Yeah. It's not a terrible story. It's not like... There was no point where I'm like, oh, this is just... Why are you doing this? I understood why they were doing this. It was just a very thin, one-dimensional, straightforward story used to get you from action to action to action to action with as minimal downtime as possible, and it was what it should be. It was what it should be. It was what I expected.
Performance.
You reacted that way to it? I love satire. I like a lot of different writing styles when used well. This was good satire. It was terrible, but meant to be terrible because it's Broforce.
Yeah.
It's making fun of the entire bro movement.
Yeah, the entire action movie thing.
It satires an entire culture and an entire trope just perfectly too. It's like, it really needed that hyperbole. It's like already so excessive. It's like, you know what, we gotta crank that to 11 just to, you know, reflect on actually how silly a lot of this stuff is.
Yeah, give the action movies the Spinal Tap treatment.
Yeah, performance, I'd say good. I mean, I think this would run on basically everything. There's
Game will run on a potato.
Like, even when you have like a bajillion explosions on the screen, I don't think I ever really noticed it like slow down or like crash or anything for me.
In a game of this style, you almost want the slowdown.
Yeah, just thought like, oh my god. But I meant like it isn't like you don't get that Minecraft effect when you drop too much TNT and you hit it, and then all of a sudden you just sit there like, something's happening in the background. Maybe I'll see it in a bit, and then all of a sudden it skips to just a crater. You're like, oh, that's cool. At least like when everything's happening, if there was any slowdown, you at least get to experience some frames.
Yeah, no, never experienced that before. That's true. The animations were okay.
Yep.
Yeah, they for the style and the limitations they have, like, yeah, it is okay. There's of course
they
a lot more that could
did well with the number of pixels they had. It gets the point across and makes the action feel. I really liked the chunks. It was very chunky. Pretty sure the TNT problem has been fixed in both versions of Minecraft unless you're stacking tons of it. It's pseudo. You know he's stacking tons of it.
Yeah, it was
if
always
it's
just
worth doing, it's worth overdoing.
Yeah, it was always just stacking tons of it. The main problem was just that like you just get locked out of that like render cycle during that process. You just stops and you're like, I think the last time I played it, it's still okay, but I mean, there's only so much you can do when they're going to calculate that much. It wasn't so much a jab at Minecraft being bad, it was just an example of what happens sometimes when you have too many explosions at once. And especially in 3D, that's a lot harder to do than 2D when you're just kind of blowing up, only a little two-dimensional space.
If you ever want to break a sandbox game, just go set out to find out how many items you can get to be generated at the same time on the screen. Then try to set off an explosion. That'll get it working.
Fun story. There was a bug in the original Borderlands where if you killed the secret raid boss on an early release version, the game would actually crash because it tried to spawn too much loot on the highest difficulty.
I love that. Style?
Yes.
I'm torn between good and okay.
I'm gravitating toward good, and pseudo sounds like a strong good.
I am good.
The reason I would lean towards okay is because I didn't think it was particularly consistent.
It is kind of all over the place. Well, I guess more the story is all over the place. The characters are kind of all over the place, but that's expected because they're all taken from different movies. But
I think just the overall art style, I mean, they still stuck with the same kind of limitations.
Everything looked like it fit together still.
The stronger the characters were, the actual more pixels and more, animated they were. And I think that was kind of intentional. And then the actual characters you play as themselves are all kind of set by that same limitations, some more than others. I would agree with, but I think overall just like they, at least for the way they blend that satire in with just the overall style of the entire game, not just the visuals, but just everything going on with like the enemy designs, all that stuff I found was just great. I think I couldn't think of too many ways to really improve it. I was just like, I didn't think that this flat 2D style would fit it, but I feel like that retro, if you try to do it in like 3D, or if you try to do it in even just like a more stylized way, I don't know if it would have that same charm. I think just what they had there just added to that charm so much.
I would say that they could have made better use of their own styling, because I think the styling that they did was really good. I think they tried to pull a little too much from the source material rather than sticking with their own stuff. I'm okay with giving it a good. I do think that their work was very good. But at the same time, I would like to call out that there was some inconsistency.
So you would like more, if of what I'm reading from Glenn Conn and yourself, you would like more that the characters all looked like they were from the same game rather than looking like they're from different movies.
Yes.
I really like that they look like they're from different movies. They're just completely playing on what they are.
Yeah, I think
they're not pulling any punches. They're not pretending to be anything more than what they are. They're just like ridiculous over-the-top action heroes thrown into ridiculous over-the-top action.
I think it's kind of what would happen if you were to just take all those characters and put them in a single movie. You would just get that huge clash of different styles.
Well, one of the things that we call out as fitting into the style category is not necessarily how much we appreciate the style, but consistency within itself. That is one of the criteria that we use to judge style.
As well as intention. So, I mean, like, it doesn't have to be,
The consistency of this style comes from consistently looking like they're from the movie they're in, and being able to pull that movie's style into their own style, make them both work.
At least the characters in the cutscenes, they all have the same style. They're
I 100% agree in the cutscenes. I think the cutscenes are fantastic. It does make everybody very much look like they belong in the same video game. But I would say in gameplay, that's not necessarily the case.
What would be your biggest character complaint?
Probably the melee characters. They're animated very, very differently than the ranged characters. And I mean, like, some of that is by necessity.
Yeah.
But like the run cycles are different. The attacks are, neededly different. But the big thing that stuck out to me was the run cycles, and then the switching of art styles. Is it really a switching of art styles? The adaptation of art styles between different settings.
That to me could also be expressing, just like Suda was talking about, different styles of fighting being portrayed on the battlefield. They're still in the same pixel style. The animation maybe isn't quite as consistent between them, but the style and design of the character still looks right. Basically.
So I would say then that we call out some of that inconsistency and give it a good anyway.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm fine with that.
Because I do agree that the overall visual style was fantastic.
I'm just trying to figure out how much would have been intentional and then just didn't hit as well as they planned to, or if it was just like they got carried away with just adding everything in and it was just something they missed.
Well, there have been characters added over time, haven't there?
I don't know. I think it was just you got what you got with that game. I don't know if they ever patched anyone in.
Okay. I'm not sure. I thought I remembered over time, because I remember seeing it when it came out, and I think I remember seeing updates to it trying to get me to buy it again.
I mean, I'm just going by the cohesiveness of the end card.
Mm-hmm.
But it, now that I think about it, it does feel like there could have been other characters added in. Because there's some characters that are like very hard to spot and they're not given very much space in the end card. Could be.
That's true. There is but yeah, you can easily add in people to the back of it and fill in blank space with another character. Musical score.
Enjoyed it. Not memorable.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. So I have an okay on it by default.
I just looked it up, and they did add new characters in, and Raiden was one of them. and his style definitely is a lot different
Yep.
than the other characters. So it does seem to be more of just inconsistency. They added in later. Maybe they had more time, so they, made
Put
it
more
a bit
effort into
special.
it. Yeah, the game is all of a sudden popular. Let's throw something really different in to mix things up and see how it works out. And I'm cool with that.
It's definitely. I don't think it was an intention. I think they just by accident or just adding in more content, they just put more effort into some characters than others, which is a bit unfortunate, but happens.
Yeah, it's an indie. At the beginning, you're not sure what it's going to be, and when it becomes bigger and more popular and more people want it, you put more and more effort into your content. I get it. Because what had they done before this?
I don't actually know if they'd done anything before this.
My point.
Developer Free Lives. Oh, they're from Cape Town, South Africa. Interesting. They also did genital jousting.
That
and they
game's
did Gorn.
awesome. Oh, really?
They did Gorn.
I love these guys.
Yeah, they make great games.
All of those games are hilarious and awesome. And if you don't know genital jousting and you're old enough to look it up, you should.
Definitely look up Gorn. It makes so much sense with Gorn with that.
Yeah, no, I can totally see the similarities of style between Gorn and Broforce. Amazing game, isn't it, Rubido? Isn't it? Brilliant design. I mean, it's absurd and over the top and ridiculous, but they've really got the pro market
they
down.
have the pro market down.
Absolutely.
Voice acting, not applicable. Okay.
Had some.
Did it?
General yelled at you between missions and stuff, didn't he?
No, that's true. That's true, he did.
And I loved it.
In my head, it was just like you yelling out the voice lines as well because of how much you liked them.
Yeah, I would roll more on okay because there could have been a lot more that was added rather than I do love the general, but I mean they could have really excelled at just having so much more of that just all the time, especially with it would have been impossible to voice act the actual characters well in combat, but I mean it would have been nicer to have a little bit more than just grunts or yells from the enemies rather than just it yells out their name when you hit there. It would be nice to have maybe a big bad enemy, a very stereotypical villain from the 80s bro culture era that is just voiced to a T, just pisses you off all the time because he just talks like he's better than you, kind of villain.
You bring up an interesting point. The game does lack a solid villain. Satan was very nondescript and unmemorable. The final fight with him was good, but it doesn't turn him into a character, it turns him into a boss. There's a difference.
Yeah.
Professional bro gamers. Oh yeah.
Programmers even.
Programmers.
Oh, programmers. Oh yes. That too.
Sound effect.
I loved them.
Explosions were good.
Guns
I
were
liked the
good.
explosions a lot.
Guns sounded good. Explosions sounded good. Not all the sounds there are in the game. Guns and explosions.
While I'm benching 350, can you approve my PR?
Gotta bench your PR number.
Oh my god, I would get so fit so fast.
Or just die.
Just die.
Or die, yeah. One or the other.
Do I really have to do PR 2000? We start a new branch.
Can we start a new project, guys? I tore both my shoulders.
Maybe in grams. Is there anything more than guns and explosions to say sounded good?
The enemies in the gore, and when they catch fire and they start screaming everywhere. When
Yeah.
the actual vehicles, the
With
aliens
screams.
were well done. The acid splashing and stuff like that.
I remember my favorite sound effect in the game was the surprise kill sound effect, where they're just like, "Wah!"
Oh yeah, they yell to scream and it's usually when you throw them and they're startled. The girl half a Wilhelm screen.
The entire game is chaos. No amount of sound effects is going to help me figure things out. Yeah, it's a very visual, recognized game. There's not a lot of... well, there is a lot of information being portrayed through the sound effects, but there's so much information being portrayed that unless you have ridiculously good ears, you're not going to get a lot of it. But when you're sneaking around, as Rage was saying, like the surprise death tells you if he was alerted or not before you killed him. Things like that. Super helpful. And enemies could hear things. So if you're listening for the sound you're making, that would actually tell you who you're alerting around you. It was used that way. That's how I was able to sneak up on people.
So accessibility, was there any?
I'm actually looking at that right now.
Because there were subtitles for...
But what else
for
do you...
between game things.
Maybe the only thing you would need is...
There's
control rebinding,
colorblind.
Colorblind was not going to be in it.
Yeah, there's no colorblind, but there is control rebinding. There is, which I forgot about, is actually a big deal. You can turn off the camera shake.
Oh yeah,
actually a really big deal for a lot of people.
Yeah, so I would say okay.
Yeah, there was definitely some effort. Definitely a lot more could have been done, but at least they were still keeping some players in mind. There wasn't any, not from what I saw with the video settings, there wasn't any graphical options really at all. There was like VSync, but there was no way to turn on like colorblind mode or anything.
And due to the low pixel count, colorblind mode could become very detrimental to some people in a game like this, where it's just going to become a mess of color that's all samey and unrecognizable.
Yeah, I would say okay at best, but they did actually put some consideration in, so...
They did what they could as an indie team. Not going to give them a good. They did okay. But I'd like, them tackling colorblind in a pixel game like this would be a task.
It would be very difficult, yeah.
I'm not going to give them a bad for that one, but I don't get it good. Mechanics? I'm going to say okay.
Yeah. I just looked at myself in my webcam and I was making this face. So that's an okay. The bros are great. No real depth to the combat. And that's kind of all there is.
There's actually a fair bit of depth. Because the levels are fully destructible and different people have to approach
but that's
things.
Not combat.
This isn't just combat, it's mechanics.
Right, and I'm talking about combat.
Okay.
There wasn't any depth. It was just you have your thing.
There was
and
stealth
you can do
to
your
it.
thing.
There was stealth to it. I definitely stealthed a lot and crept up on areas. Tunneled through walls to get different attack angles. Talking about with the destructible environment, choosing your path toward the target. Rather than coming down the ladder at it, coming through the wall at it, stuff like that. Depending on what weapon you have. But the problem with that is it's dependent on which bro you get.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then the bros, the depth of their combat is just, you get what you get. There's your active ability, your shooting, and then there's your special, and that's it.
I love the buff disagree.
There's a lot of weaker bros, to be honest. I mean, there's it kind of adds to the charm, though, at least. I mean, it's nice when you get that bro that you just really like, and you're like, oh, hell yeah. But sometimes, some bosses are impossible to beat with certain bros. I don't know if you can really beat most of those bosses with the melee ones. You're just going to get kind of wrecked. And then there's certain ones that are my special is I call it a huge airstrike that'll just do 90% of the damage, or I can slow down time, and so there definitely were some stronger bros. I don't think it was either their intention to have it be balanced as well. I don't think they really cared. It's just going to be stupid and silly. If it worked out, it worked out.
Love catch, yeah.
Bugs.
Yeah,
catch it.
To which I wanted to add the mechanics. It adds charm, absolutely, and I loved, getting my bro that I loved to use and being all excited and going and tearing things up in the level because I got my favorite bro. But it's a bad mechanic. It's a bad mechanic. It's a bad way to design a game. Fun, but balance it, boys. Balance it. I should be able to get any bro and complete any level, which is going to be bloody impossible to do, but.
Yeah, it definitely, I mean, for what the game is, and it definitely wouldn't have been worth their effort. I don't know if it really improved the game a whole lot for me if they, balanced every bro.
No.
It was definitely just, it had its charm.
Yeah, it doesn't need to be balanced. It's fine the way it is, but it's still not a good mechanic.
Or the ability that you can't choose your bro. Because that's something you can add to counteract, having lesser tier characters is the ability to choose from them, but being combined with, you get what you get is kind of like sometimes I'm just going to get someone useless. Figure it out.
Or if you, as you rescue them, you get more changes, I guess is basically what it is, you're saying? You can choose who each one you rescue is?
Well, it's kind of just like when you, let's say if you had your favorite bro, but you want more lives, you can't get more lives because it's going to change your favorite bro.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
Okay, I'm with you then. I like that idea where who you rescued is who you rescued, but you don't have to use them. You just have the option of you have these people rescued and this many lives. But if the person dies, you have to use somebody else still.
Yeah, it'd be nice to be able to swap between who you've rescued rather than it just because then you die as them and you get someone random as well. And I don't mind the randomization, but it'd be nice to have at least a little bit more of the player control so you don't get completely screwed in boss fights where you're like, I just have to die because it is impossible to beat this boss with this character.
Yeah, I'm with you. That would make it a much better game with minimal work. Not no work, but minimal work. I encountered no bugs.
I think I recall you getting clipped into a wall a couple of times.
Did I?
I think misremembering.
I think I did while using the minigun. Brominator. Once or twice.
I'm trying to think if I run into nothing that was game breaking. There's definitely a lot of places you can soft lock yourself, but I don't know if that's really a bug, just kind of a shitty end of the mechanics. Like if you blow up the ground in front of you and you can't make that jump anymore, you're soft locked.
Yep. I remember that happening.
That's not so much a bug. I don't know if there was anything the game never crashed for me. I didn't disappear. The enemies would die when I shot them. I don't know if there was anything.
Yeah, I'm actually leaning towards good on bugs, honestly. Wall clipping is really common, and collision is hard.
Yes, I'm with you, especially when you're dealing with as many explosions and moving as fast as we are in the game at times.
It's also a super cheesy mechanic, and we're shooting the minigun and flying across the screen. It's just you have to, there's at least some little expectation that some jank might happen.
Yeah, it's hilarious though. Collision is hard, especially when you're hitting hard things. For no crashes and nothing more than having to die, respawn at checkpoint. That's fine. So RNG bad, I'm guessing. We're all agreeing, right?
So I'm a little divided on this one. Personally, I would hate it. I would absolutely hate the RNG. I would hate having choice taken away from me. But I think it's kind of what the game is all about, and that bumps it up to an okay.
Yeah, I'd sit more on okay. I don't think it's so much the RNG that's bad. I think it's just that the mechanic of limiting the player control is bad. I think the RNG is great. You get someone random, you get what you get, and it's nice that it's you unlock someone. I think who you unlock that might be linear, or I'd have to double check that.
That's pre-established. I'm 99% sure.
Yeah. And then because I know some characters are unlocked through specific missions, but yeah, I still like the mechanic. I mean, there's just ways it could have been improved. I still like the mechanic of you rescue someone, you get someone random, and it's nice that it's not always predictable. It just kind of sucks that you don't have the option to influence it at least a little bit, but the actual randomness, I feel like it's a nice addition. If they took out the RNG in this, I think it would not be great. I think it would. All you would do is just play the one character you like, and it would kind of lose on the entire experience.
Yeah, I'm not saying take out all the RNG, but it's too much. It's just a little too much.
Yeah, which is why it's not a good. But the way I try to contrast it is how would this game improve if this RNG wasn't there? Because there's a lot of games that put RNG in that definitely didn't have to have them in there. Especially with a lot of other games, we give good RNG when they just don't have it because there wasn't a reason for them to add it. And my argument for that was just saying that this game definitely benefited from having that RNG aspect in it. Don't know if it puts it to a good, but it definitely wasn't a bad.
Yeah, I'm on the same page. I think this game lives and dies by its RNG, but I hated the idea of not being able to choose who I'm playing as if I've already spawned in as that character and I want another life.
Yeah. That's why I'm saying, like, there is a point where a game becomes good from RNG and goes past good back to bad. There is a thing that can happen with that, and I'm completely random every time I pick up a new life and every time I die, other than the one unlock, was just a touch too much.
Yeah.
That last character's just gone. I'll never get them back.
And I would say that's an okay. That's not necessarily all the way back around to bad.
Yeah. Bad for me for this, they would have to add like RNG hitting and RNG shooting and RNG spawning, but that stuff's all fine. The actual all it really is you just get a random character, and that's fine. It was just the mechanics surrounding getting a random character didn't complement that very well, but I still think that the RNG of getting a random character is fine. Because that would still stay the same. We wouldn't adjust the RNG, we would just adjust, how you interact with what's random.
I would remove some of the RNG. Like, I would remove RNG on death. It would go back to one of the ones you previously had.
Yeah. And that's fine. Like I said, that's more mechanic based of, like, you get that slot full of queues, but the actual, you spawn, you get a random character, and when you save someone, it's also a random character pickup.
It'd be fun is if it was just a stack. Like, no RNG on who you're spawning at. RNG on who you unlock. But as you unlock characters, they go onto the stack, and then every time you die, you get your previous character.
Yeah, I think that would have been fantastic if it was like that.
That's kind of what I was talking about, yeah. For that level.
Yeah.
And then every time you get a new one, it's random whoever you saved, but they just take you might become them, or you can even choose to not become them and stay with who you have and just have them almost like follow along behind you kind of idea.
Yeah. So we've got a couple of solutions to just tweaking that usage of RNG a little bit, but not necessarily saying that it's a bad thing.
Yeah, it's not a terrible thing. It's playable, but it's could be way more enjoyable with a tiny change.
Which is unfortunately how most RNG goes. It is.
Yep.
It is hard to get good with that.
And a controlled grate just does. As soon as you start playing it, you're like, oh hey, this is way better than I expected.
Just the climbing and stuff like that is just like, I was surprised, right? Like, it's like I was expecting your typical platformer. They usually don't put that much effort into making sure it controls all that, man. You zoom around everywhere, you climb on everything, you zip right up. The guns actually feel surprisingly well. Like, you get solid feedback from when you shoot the different guns. Like, it's good. Even there's some jank even with some of the characters when you're kind of flying around a little bit. It's kind of annoying, but at least it's not like you're not fighting the game. It doesn't really ever take too much control away from you. It's overall okay, and including when you take over mechs and stuff like that, they kind of control similar to how like Metal Slug was, where you're just a big heavy thing that flies around, and it was still fun. Yep.
It felt very Metal Sluggy a lot of the time.
Metal Slug felt great.
if I was going to compare it to a platform shooter game, it would be Metal Slug. That is the closest comparison to play feel. And I love Metal Slug. Metal Slug was great. Is there more green than you expected in that yellow list?
Oh, no, this is more or less what I expected, actually. Mostly okay, one good.
Yeah.
All teetering almost into okay, into good.
Yeah. No, I did. Like I said at the beginning of this discussion, I really enjoyed watching it. I think that it was a great experience for me to be able to watch through. It is not something that I would have enjoyed playing, but I think this was a very good game.
I enjoyed it way more than I expected.
No,
Way more than I expected.
Not necessarily a good game. It's an okay game that I really like.
Yeah. People are always asking, I'm always talking about it's okay to like games that aren't great. And everyone always asks, so what's a game you like that isn't great? Broforce. Not a great game. I love it. It was a lot of fun.
Broforce, Borderlands.
Borderlands, yeah, it's not a great game. Though, I've only enjoyed Borderlands with friends, so...
2 is still fun on your own.
Nah.
I enjoyed 2 with friends and without them. It was good. I actually played a lot of the first one as well. Definitely better with friends, but overall still good. It's not bad. I would say, at least in my opinion.
Had to open a file, wasn't sure where it was going to open. I've got to generate some names for games. Bam, there we go. We don't have time for the second one. We did an hour of Broforce just about.
Yeah. And we could have gone longer on Bioshock.
Yep, we talk about games. That is what we do.
Better to have too much to talk about than not enough.
Oh, I agree.
The Bethesda, Bethesda is just trying to shut everything down. Oh no. It's okay. The secret to counteracting them is just to have more than a quad core, because apparently they can't handle that.
It's funny because it's true.
As much as I love them, my god. Oblivion originally didn't launch, it wouldn't run on quad core. I was so upset because I was so excited for that game, because I actually, for some reason, really enjoyed Morrowind. I loaded the game up, and it was just completely white. It just didn't load any textures or anything, and it was just white screen. And it was just, people were talking to me, and I just sat there like sad, because I'm like, I was old enough to like be able to figure out what's going wrong, but it's just that feeling you get when you're so excited for something, and you're like, well, now I'm gonna have to spend like 5 hours figuring out what the hell is going on and trying to fix this when it should just work after the money I spend for it.
That was me and Tribes 2. That game was too much for my computer at the time.
That's sad. I hate when that happens.
Tribes 2 a good game though.
Yeah?
That was a fun game.
I think I played it a little bit.
I love the... Was it...
What am I looking for?
Pseudo, you
for you,
probably
where are you?
remember what
You're over there.
what the
Okay.
weapon is. The disc launcher? Or maybe Pseudo didn't play Tribes.
Sorry, I was typing something.
Spin Fuser. That's what it's called. Fucking Spin Fuser is such a great weapon.
Was it what? Suggestion for next Saturday's panel: the good, the bad, and the Bethesda. Yeah, I saw you say that. I was thinking about stealing it and taking all of the credit.
It's definitely, like I said, like, it's as much as I rip on them here and there, I do enjoy a lot of their games, and I grew up playing a whole lot of their games. They did a lot of really cool things. They're not like a super evil company. It's just that they've, in recent years, have been making the same mistakes that a lot of other, major publishers and major studios have been doing, where,
Hot take. I don't think Bethesda game development studios have ever made a good game.
So next panel is going to be real fun.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it's kind of just like there's certain genre of games I don't know how good they would ever be. Probably wouldn't like them. Like, for what that kind of era is, like Morrowind for its time was very, very good for the limitations they have and what it actually added.
Like,
opening up the console and adding, the ability for modding, and just sure the gameplay wasn't fantastic, but a lot of the other RPGs I played around that time were complete hot garbage. Like, I don't know anything else from that, at least that same era, that would have really grabbed me as well as that one did. I mean, there's probably something, but it was, yeah, I don't know. It's it's easy to shit on them now, but it'd been a lot harder to do, when these things came out.
We will have an interesting conversation about this.
So you've got a week to gather all of your data for the debate next week. And this is the first time where two panel members feverishly disagree on something. Should be an interesting debate. I'm kind of in the middle. I don't think they've ever made anything good, but they're not trash. There's definitely value in them.
Well, and I do recognize that there are a lot of good things that the company Bethesda, the two divisions of ZeniMax, have done that are good. But
Yeah, I mean, they haven't really actually made many games. They're not really. They're a publisher, right? They're not really a developer studio. There was a very short time when they were, they were making those. Most of the time, it's just they're published. Like the studios they own through just publishment. But yeah, the recent years it's been pretty shit.
To your corners, gentlemen. Save it for next week in the ring.
oh, Board, you won a game.
He did.
Let's see if you won your own games. And also Cuddles. Is Cuddles still here?
Cuddles won a great game.
Ooh, so did Snow.
I don't know Resident Evil Revelations 2. I do not know this game.
They're not like great games, but they have an appropriate degree of Resident Evil camp.
Excellent. What about old Bethesda games? Don't know too much about them before Elder Scrolls was a thing. They're basically all just the same thing, but with less graphics.
Also, F1 2018's engine is actually phenomenal. It will run on a toaster.
So you might actually be able to play that racing game, Board. And you don't have it. There you go. Awesome. I love giving away games to people that will actually enjoy them. I'm going to quickly eat something, and I'm planning to play Final Fantasy VI for the rest of the evening, because I can, and I love that game. So stick around if you want to hang out with some Final Fantasy VI. I already know everything about it, but come hang out and watch it casually played well. Chat about all the wonderful things and interesting stories about it.
Thank you, Rubito.
Excellent. That's what I like to hear. I sure would. All right. I'll be back shortly with that. Just enough time to change my name, change my shirt, and cram some food down my face. Give me like 15-20 minutes. I like watching F1 races better than NASCAR. Watching any race is better than NASCAR. NASCAR is an incredibly technical race car. An incredibly technical feat and great endurance test of an athlete that is incredibly boring to watch somebody turn left for hours.
100% agree. Huge amount of respect for everybody involved in NASCAR. It is an entirely different set of driving skills. I don't want to watch it.
Okay, so until a few minutes from now, I'm Deus.
I'm Rage.
And I'm Pseudo.
May all your shots be headshots.